Shall we get started, Shayla? It's time-ish. Yep. Okie dokie. Great. Well, so nice to have a whole bunch of new people to meet today. And no doubt you're all quite used to this wonderful class that Thubten Norbu Ling hosts. Be your own therapist, BYO therapist, BYO Dharma Wisdom, uh, Dharma Wisdom I. So, yes, no doubt we all do these a little differently each time. What I thought we could do for this uh, few weeks that we have together is just start with a short breathing meditation and to set our motivation and become settled. And then that way, uh, the main issues of the week will percolate to the surface, no doubt. And then we can bring our Dharma wisdom to them, which is a bit that we all need help with, isn't it? Because the worldly view is pretty effortless, but it's really lovely to have a community where we can share our insights and our Dharma tips for applying the Dharma to our life. So let's just get started with the breathing meditation. It's always good to do something to bring our focus inwards and settle the mind. So this breathing meditation, the 9-round breathing, some of you will be familiar with this one. There's all different ways to do it. I find it really helpful because it's something to do with the mind rather than trying to just stop all the distractions, bam, like that. To just kind of ease into it, I find much easier. And it balances us as well emotionally and on a subtle physical level with our nervous system. So let's just get comfortable. The 2-point posture, just making sure that your spine is straight, like a strong, stable pillar, and each vertebrae supporting the one above it, just like the stones of a pillar. And because of that stability, then you can relax the body. And so, particularly, let your shoulders drop. Release any tension held in the neck and the shoulders. Just feel it rolling down along the shoulders, rolling off the tips of your shoulders. Bring your focus inwards. Just become aware of the breath. Don't need to control it. You might also become aware of the internal weather of your mind. Also, again, just as if you were a weather reporter, not judging in any way, just becoming aware what the internal atmosphere is like at the moment. And then to prepare our mind, we can do the 9-round breathing. So the first 3 rounds, we breathe out through the left nostril. This can be in imagination. As you breathe out, really feel that you are releasing all of the disturbing emotions, the distorted attitudes, the inner toxicity, the tiredness, the depression, the anxiety, all of that. Just breathe it out in the form of black smoke that disappears into space. And feel the great relief of releasing that, letting go. And then as you breathe in, effortlessly, all of the enlightened energy of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas flows into you as you breathe in through your right nostril. When your whole body becomes radiant and energized and your mind clean and clear. So 3 times long, leisurely breaths, and then just breathing normally and naturally. when you're ready, then swapping the nostrils over, this time breathing out through the right nostril, releasing all of those negativities, the disturbing emotions, the thoughts and attitudes, physical feelings, emotional feelings, anything that agitates or disturbs or depresses the mind, and all of their causes in the form of black smoke. And then into that vacuum, then effortlessly as you breathe in, feel all of the enlightened qualities flow into your whole being. That enlightened energy blessing your system, your body becoming light and energized, and your mind clear and calm. So with the nostrils swapped over, 3 long leisurely breaths. And then for the final 3, breathing out through both nostrils, in through both nostrils. And now as you breathe out in this symmetrical way through the both nostrils, feel that the smoke begins to get a little bit thinner as you get down to the more subtle problems, problematic attitudes and feelings, and release them too. The smoke becomes a little bit more misty, a little bit more like fog. So even the very subtle confusions, release them, they're gone forever. And as you breathe in through both nostrils, your whole body becomes radiant and energized, and you absorb all of the enlightened qualities. So 3 times through both nostrils. And then stay with that clarity. Fully experience how your body feels different, your mind feels relaxed but clear and alert. Feel those enlightening qualities absorb into you, every atom of your body, even changing your DNA. Feel how within your body it's radiant and clear, and outside of you, all around, also radiant and clear. And you're just breathing that clarity. And from within that state of clarity, then let it come to your mind. What are the important issues this week? Where have you got up to with your Dharma wisdom? Where was the bit where you got stuck? And think that we're going to share this today, of course, for our own benefit and our own progress along the spiritual path towards full liberation and enlightenment, but also to share amongst our Dharma brothers and sisters, as we hope to do all the way to enlightenment, and also so that we can share our experience and our life with others for the greatest benefit. So with this motivation, then you can gently bring your focus back to the room, and I'm just going to put you on gallery view so I can see you all. And let's see, how is everybody this week? How are you going? Are there any pressing issues? What's the go? big sigh there from Sasha. And who else is here? Sasha, what's the sigh about? Radio. And who else? No, Sasha's having difficulty with controls. Here we go. If I ask you to unmute. Who else was here? Marka. Is that how to say it?
Yes. Uh-huh.
How are you going?
I have some ongoing challenges and obstacles. However, in the last couple of days, I've had some real good magical things happen. I was back in the back lane of my friend's house. I was watering some plants there, and this gal came down the back lane walking her dog, and she's a crone. She's got long white hair. So I just started talking to her. It turns out that I knew of her 30 years ago, but we never met. And so that was like, I got a new friend here, and so that's pretty exciting. Yeah.
That's really nice to hear. And it's a rare event, isn't it? An actual real live human being that you already have a connection with in this life. So
Yeah.
did she remember you or did you remember her?
She never did know me. At one point I took a training. It had to do with my work at the community college. I took a training to become a life skills coach, and she and her husband were training life skills coaches. So she would have been my teacher, except shortly before I started taking the training, her husband went off and had an affair with the secretary. So I was signed up to take the training with him. He continued their business, but I heard about her, right? Because she was like the done wrong kind of wife, and before they'd been a team, teaching the training. So I'd heard about her back in '93, but I never met her.
Right. So, wow. Okay. So I've got two questions to ask you about that. So one of them is, how come what made you continue doing the training with the husband that had run off with the secretary?
I didn't know anything about him. I didn't know anything about him. I had just signed up for the training, and my friend who was working beside me, she was working with groups of these are indigenous people, groups of indigenous people that wanted to get over alcoholism, right, and addictions. And so my friend had taken the training when they were a couple, and then I just
Mm.
signed up, and I had no idea about the schism, right?
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, that's one of the things that us human beings, it's always a challenge, isn't it? We like to see people as black and white. They're either good or they're bad. And
Yeah.
intellectually we know, oh yeah, everybody has good and bad qualities. It depends on the situation, all of these things. But in practice, when we're confronted with it, it's really hard to sort it out
Oh yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
to hold these seemingly contradictory, you know, qualities or facts in our mind at the same time. It's really difficult to do.
Yeah.
It's a perennial question, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And then meantime, about a year and a half later, she got married to this other fellow, and we were talking. Actually, her dog is named Tara.
Oh, Tara, you mean?
Tara. Yeah, yeah. And so we had this talk, and she and her new husband, they had actually made a trip to Dharamsala, and she's quite familiar with the Buddhist practices and this kind of thing. So there's comes back to my passion for the Buddhism, and she had she's knowledgeable about that too. So
So,
and then
so you'll be
her
able to
dog
have
is
some
named Tara.
very nice conversations with her.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah. So the other thing, Marka, that comes to mind as well is, that really nice feeling of when you recognize someone like that, or you make the connection from the past, and it draws it together and it enriches our world.
Yeah.
So the thing that came to mind when you said that is like when His Holiness the Dalai Lama and he meets people and he always uh, kind of feels like, oh, my brother or my sister, just from a long time ago. So I may not directly remember you. So he has that spontaneous response to everybody,
Cool.
which is kind of what we can be aiming towards as well. And the first step is to actually have that experience and really feel the importance and the richness of making a connection like that. And then you use that in your meditation. Then you can extrapolate out and go, oh, well, everybody else, say here online today, we've all met each other clearly, because otherwise we wouldn't be connecting now. This is a result of having met each other before. It's just that we can't quite place it. But here we are. Now, you and I have a connection like that too. It's just that we can't quite place it.
Hmm.
So, you take this personal experience, and then because the feelings, are the experience part of it, then we build on it and we bring our Dharma wisdom to it. So it becomes really strong. It becomes part of your Dharma practice.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Uh, Anybody else? How are we going? Actually, while you're thinking about things, so the other thing that came to mind, I've just read an article about the great author Alice Munro, and so I think she was Canadian, and I think the genre, if you haven't heard of her, it's kind of like like modern Gothic, in that she captures everyday intimate life of women, in particular human beings, but that very domestic kind of life, and she captures the horror of it. So it's really amazing short stories to read, because she's unflinching in her vision, and it's a great way of portraying samsara, the horrors of samsara, because you get all the nice, nice, nice like we have, and then she flips it over and you see the horror in there. So she's for years and years she's been a darling of the literary scene, and greatly admired by feminists and everybody. And then when she died, then it came out that her husband had been abusing her daughter, and this had, um, that it had been really difficult for the daughter, for the family, for Alice Munro, and Alice Munro had kind of forced her to keep it secret for this whole time. So then when it came out, then there was this huge backlash, and a whole lot of feminists threw out Alice Munro's books, wiped her from their life. But actually, I've really been thinking about this, that while we are in samsara, human beings are like this. Um, they have real strong, we all have really strong good characteristics, and we all have a section of us that's full of the inner horror of things that we're ashamed of and we're guilty of, and times where we have um done things that we really regret. And so we just try and block that out, don't we? But actually, it's part of the whole spectrum of us. And having the courage to see it and see that, yeah, while we're still in samsara, we're going to have these afflictions in our mind. It doesn't break the purity of our mind. Whereas I think from a feminist point of view, it's like it was broken, because there isn't that understanding that the nature of the mind, the nature of our mind, because we're living beings, our nature is inherently pure. That's the potential. And all of the rest of it is all of that inner toxicity. So, this thing came about with Alice Munro, and then I was thinking, well, actually, it's probably why she was such an amazing writer, because she grappled with that inner horror. And in her life, in her personal life, she lost. Uh, but she had the courage to write it down and share it with this clarity of vision. So, incremental steps. Uh, anyway, just thought I'd throw it out there and see what you reckon. Have any of you heard of Alice Munro? Oh yeah, yep, great, excellent. So it really kind of, I was shocked, and then I kind of thought, of course, and now I want to go back and read her stuff again to see, there was this whole personal thing going on too, this inner turmoil. Okay, comments, questions, anything else?
That kind of makes me sad that she would be basically canceled, for being a victim, you know. In all actuality, I'm sure that there was a lot more going on in that home than, what
Yeah,
than what was, yeah. That kind of makes me sad that she was judged so harshly when there was probably a lot more going on.
yeah.
That's,
Well, if you said, Shayla, that for her it was too late to leave the husband, so she stayed with the husband, and you know, probably because she's a woman, she was judged a whole lot more harshly. If it was a guy, it'd be a whole different thing. But so that, like, the real no-no for women is to put, say, their career or their husband above over their children. Whereas if guys do that, it's no problem at all. So there's this double standard that we all feel, and that's kind of embarrassing. Um, but also, yeah, like you said, Shayla, it really was. It was too late for her. She'd thrown her lot in, and she'd had that karmic connection with her husband, and yet, like, it cancelled her daughter. And so then the rest of the family had to deal with that as well. So it's this really complex situation, and it brought to mind that story, of uh, the husband and wife in front of their little cottage, and there's a dog running around and a baby and a fish in the pond. And then one of the great meditators says, aha, well, you're married to the enemy who was your enemy in your past life, and you're eating the fish which was your baby in your last life, and all of these things that we're all the relationships stay close, but how they manifest changes. And we're so in the short term, um, and we grasp at the appearances so much that we go, no, it's just like this and nothing else. And so we forget the humanity. We forget that underneath all of those roles and terrible behavior and terrible, regrettable decisions, underneath all of that is a living being with feelings who's trying to, do the best they can and monumentally failing. And, that's where we can draw the comparison with ourselves. But boy, it's hard when you get the actual real life examples. But it's good. It's good start, Shayla, isn't it? To actually just feel really sad for them. Because sadness, that's a primary emotion. Anger, it's a secondary emotion. Anger is what we feel when we don't want to feel sad. So if you find yourself angry all the time, it's like you've got to make some space to be able to feel sad. And that can feel like a really devastating thing. It takes a lot of courage, but it's far more honest, and you get your humanity back again. Does anyone disagree with me? Come on.
I think it's interesting. I didn't know that sadness was primary and anger was secondary. That's interesting. Because I've been going through a divorce and I've had a lot of grief but there's anger, of course, too. And but I've been letting myself feel sad. Like, I know that that's important, but I didn't really think about anger being secondary. I kind of felt like that was also just like one of the other emotions that I was feeling during this time. But it's the worst feeling to me of all of it. Like, when I feel angry, I just am like, ah, this is definitely like the yuckiest for me, because I would rather feel sad is hard too. But
Sad
anger, I
is
don't want to
hard.
be yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Well, being angry is clearly disturbing. Like that, like it really digs us deeper and deeper into the hole. But again, there's nuances in there. So, I mean, it's from a Western psychology point of view that anger is seen as a secondary emotion. From a Buddhist point of view, anger is like it's a response, and it's driven by a wrong view. So it's kind of a real mix. There's this feeling of going, no, I don't want it. And that's driven by this instinctual feeling that our suffering is coming from them. And that's the wrong view. And it's so deep in us because that's the first thing that comes to mind is they're doing it and I'm going, no, I don't want it. And that drives it. That's what makes it so destructive, this mistake that we're laboring under. What makes it even more tricky is that it's bound up with a seed of wisdom, with this energy that goes, this is, this is wrong, this is not acceptable, this should change. But because it's not informed by wisdom, if we go with that energy, it's going to have disastrous consequences. So, because, we can get a lot of energy from anger, and a whole lot of social justice movement and activism and everything is often informed by anger, but it's a mixed emotion because there's part of it is like, I've got to save these people. What's happening is wrong. We can't let this stand. But it's mixed up with this wrong view that goes, and the problem's coming from that person. And that's a mistake. It's not. They're just the catalyst. Yeah, they have definitely a role in the situation, but they're not the cause. And because we have that mistaken idea that they're the cause, then we often go to retaliate. And all of that, of course, disturbs our mind, disturbs everybody else's mind. So, I mean, in a way, the really good thing, Sasha, about a divorce is that it's inescapable and you can't kid yourself because, like, it's just so intense, isn't it? So now you've got something, as Venerable Robina would say, really juicy to work with.
It's funny you say that because I was thinking about a teaching she was doing, and it would hit me during that time months ago where I was like, she's like, all the anger you feel, all the emotions you feel, it's a mirror, it's you yourself, all that's from you. And I think that's when the grief really hit. I was like, oh God, this is my stuff. It's not, I mean, it is his stuff too, but it's my stuff that I'm suffering. It's not from him. And when that kind of like hit me, and I heard it 50,000 times, but it was like at that moment, for some reason, it just hit me. And I was just like, oh, wow. And I think that's where grief started kind of taking over the anger, because it was like, whoa, okay, it's not about him. It's all about me. And so I think that's kind of where the healing begins, which is really great, but it's really hard.
Yeah,
Hard to
but
come
you
from
you
that.
can you can develop sincere compassion for yourself.
Yeah.
And just like it's almost as if you're your own auntie, stepping by and seeing, oh, Sasha, this is devastating. And so there's something quite different from like a mistaken sense because in that kind of compassion, that's a real legitimate first step, because that then when anybody else that you meet that's going through a divorce, you're immediately going to be open-hearted to them.
So
So,
true.
it'll make you a better person. The challenge is to be able to be open-hearted to both sides.
Hmm.
But, you might be able to, if you really see the trauma that's happening with you, it doesn't take very long to see that the trauma is also happening with them. And the difference is that they don't even have a way to work through it or to make it a useful experience, to make it beneficial. It's so horrible, at least let's make it useful.
Hmm.
So in a way, you're in a much better situation.
No, I'm very thankful for the
Maybe,
resources and the teachings that I've
yeah,
been able
maybe
to have
maybe
access.
you're not necessarily in a better financial situation or in a better housing situation, but in the long term, a better situation in your mind. That's something that you can really have.
Yeah, thank you. I agree.
Mm. Hmm. Who else? Anyone got a thing that flows? Oh, okay. So we've got Dana. Yes,
Hi, it's Dana, actually.
Dana.
Um, it's my first time here. Thank you for hosting this. So I'm sitting here in kind of a swirl of I don't even like synchronicity, I guess. Um, I can't even I can't even explain all the levels where like so many things from Alice Munro right through are sort of kind of clinking into place. But I wanted to say, so my son was philosophy English major in college and did a lot of research and writing and literary critique of Alice Munro's work. And he's now 25, and I am visiting him for sort of an extended visit in Oregon, and we are having a really, really difficult interaction. He just broke up with his partner broke up with him. He's devastated. He's unable to express anything or feel anything. Like he won't let himself feel. I think anger is there, but this is my take after one interaction with him, that like the sadness is like he doesn't feel sadness. He doesn't let himself, he doesn't go into it fully. He's not able to loosen all the self-concept that goes with that. But then when Sasha, no, not Sasha, I'm sorry, whoever was just speaking and I missed the name.
Yeah, it was Sasha. Yeah.
Okay, started talking about divorce and then the anger and okay, so like 11 years ago, I left his dad, my ex. And because, so cue Alice Munro and the child abuse in her family. I left because it was abusive.
Mm-hmm.
And not just for me, but for him as well, for my son as well. But for my son, it was emotional abuse. And I was driven to the point, hello, women. I'm just like, I just had this sense of feeling like I'm just like talking to the screen. And then I just realized there are this whole group
You're
of
all
people
here.
sitting here listening to me. And I hadn't really said hello. So I see you. I feel you feeling me, actually.
Yeah.
Um,
Dana.
so let me just say about anger, like anger was for me the catalyst that allowed me to break that cycle and leave that situation.
Yeah,
So
so I've got to stop you right there, and let's delve into that, because especially if you're first time new here, one of the things that happens is that we all think we're talking about the same thing, but we're not. So this word anger in Buddhism, I mean, it's a wild and woolly thing, because there are many words that we use in English that we use interchangeably sometimes, but then other times, we have them as specific things like anger, frustration, hatred, belligerence, maliciousness, all of those things. And also in Buddhism, sometimes they're all used as the same thing, but actually there are distinctions. So this is something where we really got to slow things down, and it's really helpful if you have a pen and paper and you start writing down definitions. So definitions of what you think anger is as like a process, and then finding the Buddhist definition. And that is our way out of the confusion. Because His Holiness the Dalai Lama has pointed out that actually the word anger and the word hatred, right? They're quite different, aren't they? I mean, we've got two different words. And actually, when we're talking about the three poisonous attitudes, desires, attachment, ignorance, and hatred, that's actually the destructive thing. So in the word hatred is this feeling of or intent of maliciousness, of wishing to cause harm. So that's the working definition right there, the wish to cause harm, or the wish to hurt. So, like with revenge, we want them to suffer. As much as we suffer, they should suffer. So hatred, revenge, it has this intention to cause harm. Whereas when we look at anger, like you said, anger was your motivating force. You've got to see, well, what did it motivate you to do? Did it motivate you? It's probably a big spectrum, right? So what did it motivate you to do? And then we can see, was that anger, or was it hatred, or was it frustration, or was it
fear,
righteousness, or
or
so
was
what did it
fear.
motivate you to do?
So I'm not sure that the anger motivated me to do something. I think fear motivated me, and then the anger catalyzed me, like allowed me to move through the process of what I had to do, which was, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay, so
Now.
look at the result. So what did it motivate you to do? What was it that you did?
I took my son and left the country and moved back to the US.
Okay, so that's like an act of providing safety.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So there's no way that can be motivated by anger or hatred, because
Not
it's
for my
an
son.
action of so
It
this
would
is
have,
why it's tricky, because it's an
yeah.
action that of motivated by concern, right? So it
Yeah.
might have been motivated by maliciousness and wanting him to suffer, but it was also clearly must have been motivated by a huge degree of concern to even be able to leave the country.
Mm-hmm.
So this is
Yeah.
why it's so tricky,
Yeah.
because when we say we're motivated by anger, we've got to get much clearer. Because if we are motivated by, for instance, hatred, we're just going to end up shooting the person. If what you've done is gone to a place of safety, then somewhere in there you've been motivated by concern, by wishing to provide safety for someone else. So altruism, um, compassion, not wishing the person to suffer. So they're motivating things, and they might have been contaminated by thoughts of, revenge or hatred. Usually we're a mixed bag, aren't we? But often when we are really motivated to act, it is this mixed bag of fierce concern on the one hand, and then this mistaken wish to show them what's what, to harm the other.
Hmm.
And because it's a mixed bag, we'll get a mixed result. So, you've gone to a place of safety, but you may not have a good relationship with your ex. And so then that has ramifications further on as everybody grows up and things like that. So there's that, but also there's another thing where you said motivated by fear. Now, this is something that I've pondered on and off for all the years that I've been involved in Buddhism, because fear's not really talked about much. And it's because actually fear is it's like it's a resultant emotion, but it doesn't reveal what's causing it. And actually fear comes from self-grasping, and from grasping at a sense of self that doesn't exist in the way that we think it does. And how do we know we have self-grasping? Because we have fear. So we can extrapolate it back. And so the debilitating fear, the fear that agitates us, the fear that makes us depressed, the fear that ruins our life, that's all a result of self-grasping, of not understanding our nature and the nature of everything and everyone around us. And so we are on a very instinctual level. We get panicked. We get alienated. We feel everyone's our enemy. We're frightened of death. We're frightened of change, all of that. If we've got that, then we know we have self-grasping. And self-grasping is like the defining thing, or trying to get rid of self-grasping is the defining thing of what a Buddhist is, because that's what's going to get us out of samsara. The good heart isn't going to get us out of samsara. It's dealing with this self-grasping. So the other thing about fear, of course, is that it's not counted as a negativity because, again, it's a result. And some things it's legitimate to be fearful about. Like being scared of a snake because it's going to bite you, or being scared of getting run over by a bus. That's a legitimate thing. So it's an uncomfortable feeling that's beneficial. So being motivated by fear is probably this whole spectrum, that you've got an uncomfortable feeling, but it was useful because it got you out of a dangerous situation. So fear is a good thing. It doesn't feel good, but it's really useful. But underneath it all, while we're still in samsara, is because it's ultimately motivated by this self-grasping. Anyway, that's probably way too much for your first time here, Dana.
It's okay. I've thought about these things a lot, so it's all right. I appreciate it.
It's important that we bring this clarity to our definitions, because it'll help you sort out and be able to weed out the distorted states of mind without chucking out the good things, and that's what happened with Alice Munro. It was like all one or all the other. But actually, we're all complex beings, and we've got to be able to see, well, what was a failing and what was the beneficial thing? And the same with our relationships. And basically, the thing that we all need, and the thing that your son would need, is to feel that you're on his side. That's it. That's at bottom. That's what he's got to feel, that you're on his side. And probably as a parent, you've got to be able to realize that how he experiences things is going to be different from you. So you've got your experience of the divorce and all the things that you needed, and his will be different.
Yep.
And his needs, the things he'd need to hear, will be different from what you'd need to hear. So many times when we're talking to people, we're saying what matters to us, what we need to hear, But you've got to really think, how is my son different from me? How does he need to hear things differently than I would? And that's the real challenge of a mother.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was very, very insightful, very wise.
Oh,
And
thank you. Yes, Sasha.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Mm.
I just had a question about the fear thing, like when you get hit by a bus or things like that. Is it because of your grasping of not wanting to die of death? Is that what it is? Or pain from the snake? Like, is that what it is?
Well, if you're having a fear of getting hit by a bus is just a conventional and useful fear.
Like a reflex.
It's like it's biologically hardwired in, and it's a karmic result. And it's useful. But anytime that we feel fear, because it's uncomfortable, we want to get rid of the fear. This is like what's happening with climate change, People are scared about the climate, so they just try and get rid of their anxiety. Not deal with the climate, but just get rid of the anxiety about the climate. So this is normally what we do with everything. We have fear and we don't like the feeling, so we try and get rid of the fear. But actually the fear is there for a very helpful reason. And we probably should listen to it. And the only way we can do that is to get over that initial panic that we have. So, for instance, say a bodhisattva was hit by a bus. Hopefully, they'd have some fear of being hit by a bus, and so they wouldn't be. But their fear isn't based on self-grasping. Their fear is, I need to be here for sentient beings, and if I die, I'm not going to be able to help them. So their fear is based on benefiting the other. It's not based on, oh no, I'm going to die. So that's one thing. And maybe if a bodhisattva was hit by a bus, like I've heard of one Lama where he tripped down these stone stairs and he actually cracked his head open. And at the moment that he cracked his head open, he said to himself, oh, good, may I take on the life obstacles of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, as his head hit the stone step. So that's like, with if we're free of self-grasping, if we're free of self-cherishing, then that'll be our spontaneous reaction. That when something harmful like that happens, we go, great, may I take on obstacles, the life obstacles of our gurus. So in November, I had the fantastic opportunity to go on pilgrimage with Geshe Zopa to Nepal. It's the first time I've ever been to Nepal, like all these years being involved in Buddhism, and I've never been to the home monastery. And so part of going to Nepal was getting in a bus and going along these really windy roads at the edge of the mountain. And so we spent about 8-9 hours on this bus, and I'd looked at the bus before we got on, and I knew the configuration of the wheels and things like that. But when we're in the back of the bus, you'd look out the window, and all you could see was the back wheels of the bus in the air, like hanging over the edge of the road. And so everybody on the bus was just like, God, and saying their mantras and being terrified. So I'd looked at the bus and I knew it actually had 2 sets of wheels. So I knew that one set of the wheels was still on the road, even if the other set was off in the air. But I didn't tell anyone that. So anyway, so we're going along, but because we were there for like 8 or 9 hours, and then every time you go around, you get to a corner, they'd toot their horn, and the horn has this incredible tune. And so that way, if any other truck's coming, because it's only one lane, the other truck hears the horn tooting and it will stop, and so we won't crash and all fall off the mountain. So it's hair raising. This happened like every maybe I don't know, every 2 minutes, 1 minute, there would be a curve. There would be the amazing sound of the horn, and you just pray there's not another truck barreling down in the opposite direction whilst the wheels are hanging off the edge. And it went on and on and on and on. So in the beginning, you know, a huge amount of adrenaline, a lot of anxiety, a lot of like, well, here's myself grasping right here, right in front of my face. And then I'm thinking, oh, that's right. That's what they say. To be able to do these meditations on emptiness and selflessness, you've got to get the right target. Here's the target. Total panic and fear. Getting totally over and adrenalized, being able to calm down. And because it was this situation, captive audience, like a 9-hour meditation, I got to work it through. And finally, by about 3 or 4 hours, I'd figured out, oh, yeah, okay, if I die, I want to give all of my life force to His Holiness the Dalai Lama. You know, that's going to make my death useful and worthwhile. And so then I managed to get over the panic and all that, and then imagine His Holiness the Dalai Lama in my heart, sitting there smiling and chatting and laughing. And then I was saying His Holiness's name mantra the whole time. And then every time we go around a corner, I'd imagine like all of the energy in my body, like lights going to His Holiness, so that it was all plugged in, ready to go. That if we rolled off the mountain and I died, then all of the connections were there, and my life force would go zapping off to His Holiness. So, you know, I was thinking, well, this is what bodhisattvas do spontaneously. But here I am in this inescapably fearful situation, and I got to work it out in my own time and be creative about it in my own way. And so then in the end, I had this fantastic meditation, just prayed for His Holiness's long life and being really happy to die. So I think we can all do this. It's just that we've got to kind of work it through. You know, we've got to go through the workings and let ourselves do it sincerely, not just because you think you should. And no better time than a situation like that. Anyway, I am eternally grateful to that truck driver for keeping me alive, but also for being able to have that experience. So a little riff on fear there. Oh, Naka, yeah, for it. Oh, I can't hear you. Hang on, let me ask to unmute. Yeah.
Can you hear? You can hear me. Did you say that you need to take that bus to get to Kopan Monastery?
No, you can walk to Kopan Monastery. No,
Okay.
no, this is going through Nepal to the Maratika caves.
Okay. No, just, for the future, if I'm going to go to Kopan, I need to know if that bus is part of the trip.
No, it's fine. Though, if you get a taxi in Kopan, it's like a little mini experience of that. But there's also something else that I learned in Kopan, which is the traffic mudra. So this is this thing that everybody does, all the pedestrians. So you're walking along, there's trucks and tuk-tuks and people and motorbikes and pollution everywhere. And everyone's walking at 100 miles an hour and no traffic lights and no nothing, and you need to cross the street. And there's this thing that you do with your hand. You put it down by your thigh, and you just kind of go like this. And it's a mudra, and so then the trucks will stop, the people will walk across. And there was a bit where we're trying to catch up with Geshe Zopa, and I had to cross, and there's trucks and everything going everywhere. And I did the mudra, worked. It was amazing. Like, that's so, I mean, it's a worldly mudra, but it is this, you connect with others. It's like body and mind together. You have this mental communication happening, and it is channeled by this hand mudra. It's incredibly subtle. It's just like this, and yet everybody sees it and does it. instinctually. It's not a conscious thing. It was a mind-blowing experience. So again, a really strong experience of a mudra, and then I thought, so then when we do mudras in the meditation, that's how they've got to be. Yeah, the blessings of Kopan and being in a holy city of Kathmandu. We've got a few more minutes. Any last comments or questions or anything at all? Mark, are you going to go to Nepal?
It's on the list, I don't have any immediate plans, but it sounds pretty like a place to go to for sure.
It is. Going to our home monastery in Kopan is fantastic. And then just a little bit down the hill, the nunnery there as well, Kopan Nunnery. So inspiring. You can stay at Kopan Nunnery. You get an ensuite and everything.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really lovely. And then the holy places. But it's a really mixed bag. You get to work on your what you see is not necessarily the reality. And what you first see is rubbish and pollution. And under that is all the holy stuff. It's all existing there, all at the same time, this like strata of experience. Very much like our life, at the top it's all rubbish and pollution, and underneath there's this incredible spiritual potential, and it's just how to tap into that. Right. Well, any last comments? Let's dedicate the merits then. We've had a fantastic discussion, meeting our new Dharma sisters and Dharma brothers, and connecting in this way. The fact that we've met like this is a result. It's a result of good karma to be able to meet new friends, to have a Dharma community, Dharma support. So let's dedicate this energy that we too can be a Dharma support, a support to everyone in our life, a real safe person to go to, that we can bring our good-heartedness, but also our Dharma wisdom to things, to sort things out and bring some clarity, so we have that really safe direction in life. So we're safe to be with, and we're safe to be accompanied by, and dedicate all of the good feelings as well, to be able to make sure that our Dharma journey, it's nourishing, and that we can share the joy of being together and continue to help each other, have all of the inner resources and joyousness to continue on this path together until every single one of us is enlightened and we can bring everyone along with us. So thanks very much, everyone. Have a fantastic week, and see you next week.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good night, everyone.